Brothers and sisters, I ask you to please remain standing. Trinidad and Tobago, we are all one people under God. Trinidad and Tobago, in celebration of the diversity of our nation, let us welcome the following persons who will invoke the blessings of God here tonight in the following order. Jaislyn Arundel of the Christian faith, Maulana Hamza Muhammad of the Muslim faith, and Mr. Sudhir Sagram Singh of the Hindu faith.
I love you, Lord, for your mercy never fails me. In all my days, I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire in darkest nights. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father, I've known you as a friend, and I will sing of the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, and I will sing of the goodness of God. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. And all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God.
Sitaram, Namaste, good evening. Before I proceed, let me first take this opportunity to acknowledge all members of the head table, members of government, members of cabinet, and all other legislative bodies here this evening, as well as you, the listening and viewing audience. I now ask you to kindly clasp your hands, bow your heads, and focus on that form of the Almighty, of that divine, in whichever way you see them. Om Bhur Bhaswa Tat Savitor Varenyam Bargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yona Prachodhyat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandham Pushti Vardhanam Urva Rukrameva Bandhana Mretyo Mokshim Mamrata. Bhagwan Vishnu, we come before you with humble hearts as we embark on this evening's proceedings. Grant us the wisdom to discern the needs of our nation, the strength to pursue justice, and the compassion to serve all our fellow citizens. May our words be filled with truth, our actions guided by integrity, and our aspirations directed towards the common good. Bless this gathering with unity, understanding, and a commitment to the welfare of our people. As we engage in this evening's discussions, let your guiding light illuminate our path, leading us towards a future marked by prosperity, harmony, and justice for all. Inspire our leaders to work diligently for the well-being of our nation, mindful of the responsibility entrusted to them. In your name, we pray for prosperity, well-being, and the upliftment of our beautiful nation and people. Om Shanti, 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 Sitaram, and good evening.
Pleasant good night to everyone. I was just remembering something that I heard, and it goes like this. Live good in your neighborhood. Live good anywhere you go in the world. Live good, let me tell you, boys and girls. Love your neighbor like your enemy. That's what the Bible, it tell me. Islam is a religion so great and true. Islam is the way for me and you. Come on, no people, hold on firm and strong. Always bear in mind that to God we all belong. Alhamdulillah, all praises are for Allah. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. He is most gracious. He is most kind, most compassionate, most merciful. Maliki Yawmiddin. He is the master, the king, the owner of the day of judgment. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. It is only Allah we worship. It is only Allah's aid we seek. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Guide us on the straight path. Siratal ladhina namta alayhim. The path upon those whom you have bestowed your grace and favors. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim walad dallin. Not the path upon those who earn your anger, nor of those who go astray. Qul huwallahu ahad. Say, He is Allah, one. Allahu samad. Allah eternal, absolute. Lam yalid wa lam yulad. He begets not, nor is He begotten. Wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. There is nothing and no one to compare to Him. Master of the heavens and the earth, I lift my hands together with all these people in this blessed land, in this blessed place, the land that you have bestowed upon us, the land of Trinidad and Tobago. I lift my hands and I supplicate to you, and I beg you to give our leaders the guidance that they need to lead us on the right path. I beg you to give them the how to do so that they will know how to do it. I beg you to bless our Prime Minister and continue to guide him with the health and the strength. Continue to give him the power, the authority to rule over this nation in the best manner and the best way possible. Help us all to remember, Sayyidil Qawmi Qadimuhum, that the chief of a nation becomes their servant. Just as our Prime Minister and the other ministers, they serve us. Help us to remember, as a people, we have a duty towards you first, a duty to our land, and a duty to the leaders of this land. Help us so that we can work hand in hand to make Trinidad and Tobago a better, safer place for us, our children, and the generations yet to come. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Trinidad and Tobago, we are indeed one people under God. Let us celebrate the beauty in our diversity by giving ourselves a round of applause. To those who are in a position to have a seat, kindly have your seat as we get ready for tonight's proceedings. Trinidad and Tobago, allow me to recognize Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley, the Prime Minister and the political leader of the People's National Movement. Allow me, of course, to recognize the distinguished members of the head table. Allow me to recognize our party chairman, the Honorable Mr. Stuart Young. Allow me to recognize all government ministers, and come on, we can do better than that. Let us give our officials a round of applause. Allow me to recognize the matriarch of our great party, Miss Joan Yule Williams. Allow me to recognize all government ministers, all senators, all members of parliament. Trinidad and Tobago, the people of Sawa, the people of the Kweze, put your hands together and allow me to welcome the chairman, deputy chairman, councillor and aldermen of your region, the Sawa-Laventille Regional Corporation. Let us put our hands together. Let us put our hands together and also recognize all members of local government, all executive members of the People's National Movement, all officers of the movement, of course, the hard-working operations team led by Miss Irene Hines, and of course, not forgetting you, the people of San Juan. Let me hear you make some noise. And of course, the people of Barataria, let me hear you make some noise. And to you, brothers and sisters, the viewing and listening public, members of the media, a pleasant good night. Sweet, sweet Trinidad and Tobago, let me begin by wishing each and every one of you a happy, happy new year. And let us give ourselves a round of applause for being able to walk into another year. When we look outside, brothers and sisters, it is an ocean of love. From here, we only see one race, the human race. And from 2024 to 2025, I must say it is going to be real pace. Brothers and sisters, we are, and this is something for us to feel proud of, we are the People's National Movement. We are your government. Brothers and sisters, and we are live here tonight from the Kweze. And that also, all the people of the Kweze, I need to hear you all make some noise. So come, my brother, come, my sister, let us now hear from the honorable table. Let come, my brother, come, my sister, let us hear how we at the PNM will continue to build our nation together. Brothers and sisters, I begin immediately with the batting order. The first speaker, I understand, has served a rich tenure in local government for more than 20 years. Brothers and sisters, during the period of 1992 to 2010, he served as the councillor for St. Barb's, Chinapu, and further serves as an alderman of the San Juan-Laventille Regional Corporation from the year 2016 to 2023, which is present. I understand the next speaker is also a cricketer. He's hiding his talent from us. And he is also Laventille West. Are you in the house? Laventille West, he's the chairman of your constituency. To bring welcoming greetings since we are in his region, put your hands together as we welcome to the political platform the chairman of the San Juan-Laventille Regional Corporation, Mr. Richard Walcott.
Give praise, children. Give praise. Give praise, children, yeah. Give praise. Give praise, children, yeah. Oh, Father, who has given us this heart that we can
Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago and political leader of the People's National Movement, the Honorable Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, Minister of Education and Member of Parliament of St. Anne's East, the Honorable Nyan Gapsby Dolly, the Member of Parliament for Laventille West and Minister of National Security, the Honorable Fitzgerald Hines, Chairman of the party, Mr. Stuart Young, Member of Parliament for St. Joseph, Mr. Dial Singh, officers of the party, someone that we love in the People's National Movement and respect, Mrs. Joan Yule Williams, tonight, I stand here with my head held high. I stand here with my heart pumping with pride to welcome you to the Crazy, to welcome you to San Juan, to welcome you to the region of San Juan Laventille. My friends, I say I am standing here with pride, with proud, my heart pumping. And there's a reason for that. Because under the People's National Movement, we in this region has benefited from PNM development. And Madam Chairman, Chairlady, permit me to share with you tonight some of these developments. When we look at education, in this region, we have benefited from a People's National Movement government building something like 12 secondary schools. And today when we were compiling this information and my secretary came to me and she said, Chairman, you know we have 47 primary schools built by the People's National Movement. We have in this region something like 9, not something, we have 9 health centers. 9 health centers throughout the region. We are lucky in this region to be in the middle of this country's 2 major hospitals, the Eric Williams Medical Sciences and the Port of Spain General Hospital, where the people of this region can go and get free medical attention, built by the People's National Movement. We have, ladies and gentlemen, community centers in this region. Some of the most modern community centers in this region. We have 18 community centers built by the People's National Movement in the region of San Juan Laventille. And it's good to talk about these things. We must remember it. We must let people know. We must let the young ones know how the development came about in San Juan Laventille. We have a duty to let our young ones know what the PNM did in this region. We have 8 police stations in our region. And we will soon have 9, because in March, the San Juan Laventille Regional Corporation will be turning the sod to build the municipal police station right on 2nd Street, San Juan. We have 3 fire stations in our region. And I forget, and I want to apologize to Minister Hines, I forgot to mention the Laventille Technology Center in our region. Something where our young people, an institution where our young people can go and learn trade. Housing. We have built many houses in this region. And if you look in Mount Hope, you will see some towers in Mount Hope which I know Minister Diaz Singh is so proud of, built by the People's National Movement. And if you look at the back of those towers, you will see townhouses, apartments, built by the People's National Movement. And if we go down in Barataria, one of the biggest housing developments in Trinidad and Tobago is in Barataria. We have houses, ladies and gentlemen, in Movant and in Laventille, built by the People's National Movement. 2 community swimming pools in our region. I was driving along Lady Young Road, and I saw our senior citizens in the pool on an early morning exercising, pool full. This is for our senior citizens and our young people. Ladies and gentlemen, we have in the region of San Juan Laventille something like 87 recreation facilities. May I repeat, we have 87 recreation facilities built by a People's National Movement Council. Just on 2nd Street, we have one of the most modern markets in the country. Cost something like $60 million. Built by the Regional Corporation of San Juan Laventille with the assistance of the central government. This very promenade that you stand in after this meeting, when I came into the corporation as a young councillor, this was a shanty town. Wooden structures all over. And the council, led by Anthony Roberts at this time, took a decision. We said we have to clean up the Kwesi, because we will be hearing on the radio that San Juan was the nastiest place in Trinidad. And we couldn't live with that. And we took a decision to clean up the Kwesi. And today, ladies and gentlemen, because of our People's National Movement central government and our People's National Movement local government, we have the promenade in San Juan. And let me tell you something. You know the UNC tried to stop this? Their then member of parliament went against the corporation, fighting against the corporation when we took a decision to clean up here and ensure that we have a promenade in the center of the Kwesi. In our region, ladies and gentlemen, we can boast about 100% electricity for homes and communities. In our region, we can drive our cars to our homes. Oh yes, our street may need maintenance. But we ensure that the people in San Juan Laventille benefited from the oil dollars, benefited, ladies and gentlemen, under a People's National Movement when it comes to development. If you look on my left, you will see the priority bus route. One of the major roads in Trinidad and Tobago, passing through San Juan Laventille, built by the People's National Movement. Do you know that there are people who will park their cars in the Kwesi, take the maxi taxi, go to work, come back and pick up their cars and go home? The corporation, recognizing this, we, ladies and gentlemen, went into discussion with the Commissioner of State Lands, identifying a property in San Juan. And we are in negotiation now to build a car park, high-rise car park, so that the people of San Juan Laventille can benefit with parking in this region. So when I say I stand here proud, with my head held high, with my heart pumping with joy, I say this, ladies and gentlemen, and I want you to join me, ladies and gentlemen, that great is the PNM. Great is the PNM. Great is the PNM, and we shall prevail. Thank you, and may God richly bless you.
Give praise, children, yeah. Give praise.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. Brothers and sisters, we must recognize the way in which he would have reported us, but I ask you to stand. Let us stand wherever you are as we welcome the arrival of our political leader and the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley. Trinidad and Tobago, our Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley. You may have your seats. Prime Minister, welcome to the heart of the Kwesi. Let us give our Prime Minister another round of applause. And thank you, Chairman Walcott, for reporting on what your cooperation and thank you for have been doing, and thank you for reminding the people of this region of what the PNM has done over the years for this region. Brothers and sisters, education is everyone's business. Trinidad and Tobago, cultural transformation through education requires, among other things, mentors and positive influencers for our students. Trinidad and Tobago, who better to lead this charge than the next speaker? The next speaker, brothers and sisters, people of the Kwesi, Trinidad and Tobago, is a mother of 3 beautiful children and understands the importance of education in shaping and molding the future of our nation. The next speaker understands the role of education even in dealing with crime and criminality in Trinidad and Tobago. The next speaker, brothers and sisters, recognizes that the future of this nation rests in the school bags of our children. St. Anne's East, St. Anne's East, let me hear you make some noise. Because in 2015, when she became your member of parliament, life became better in SAE. St. Anne's East, there is no folly with Dolly. She is bright. She is beautiful. She is also woman power. She is the deputy political leader of our great party. Give her a round of applause. Brothers and sisters, my member of parliament for St. Anne's East, put your hands together as we welcome to the lectern to report to you the beautiful, the dynamic Dr. the Honorable Nyan Gatsby Dolly.
Political leader of the People's National Movement, let's give Dr. Rowley a San Juan welcome. Executive members of the People's National Movement, members of Parliament, members of Cabinet, the chairman of the San Juan Laventel Regional Corporation, let's hear it from Mr. Richard Walcott. Let's acknowledge all members of the council, all our councillors who are here from the San Juan Laventel Regional Corporation. PNM members, members of the national community. St. Anne's East, are you here with us? Anybody here from Sawa? Anybody here from Sawa? Well, let us people of Sawa, born, bred, birthed, and living in San Juan myself, let us welcome the PNM once again to the Kwesi. If you're from San Juan and you're welcoming the PNM, say great is the PNM. And if you love this party, say great is the PNM. And if you love Dr. Rowley, say great is the PNM. It is a pleasure to be here. As I said, birth, born, bred, and living in San Juan. A pleasure to be here to address you. And tonight, I want to speak to you about education and the link between education and how it can help our youth out of crime. Is crime an issue in Trinidad and Tobago? Is crime an issue in Trinidad and Tobago? It is. This government has not run from that. This government, led by Dr. Keith Rowley, is the government that invited all of our regional leaders to Trinidad and Tobago last year. Do you remember that? Invited all of our regional leaders to speak about crime in the region. Because we're not alone. We are not alone in Trinidad and Tobago with a crime issue. It's all over the world, all over the region. And you can know that all of our leaders found it important because they were all here, many of them, to speak about crime as a public health issue. So we are not shying away from the fact that crime is an issue. And we are here tonight to discuss how this government is dealing with the problem of crime. You heard our master of ceremonies, our mistress of ceremonies, the Honorable Renuka Sagram Singh Suklal, say that education is everyone's business. Crime is similarly everyone's business. No one can insulate themselves from crime, and education is far-reaching, and it reaches into every home in this country. So these two things are very important on the national agenda, and our approach to crime as a government is a whole-of-government approach, and you will hear the Minister of National Security speak, and of course the Prime Minister will come in to speak about that. And so I want to speak to you from the education perspective with regards to what we are doing at the Ministry of Education, what we are mandated to do by our Prime Minister, by our government to deal with crime. You see, because it doesn't take anyone too much trouble to understand the link between low achievement at school, or worse yet, dropping out of school, and the lure of youth to crime. Crime is something, and criminality, and involvement in gangs that attracts young people who generally are low achievers at school or have dropped out of school, have family issues, don't have a strong family culture. They get involved in crime. And therefore, from the education perspective, what are we mandated to do? We are mandated to reduce the amount of school dropouts and to increase student engagement and achievement. Because if we can do that, the data shows us that those children, if they're engaged in school, if they are not dropping out, if they're involved in school life, then the life of criminality has less attraction for them. So we have a mandate in education. If I want to share with you some statistics about dropouts, let me share with you, in 2014-15, we had 120 primary school dropouts, 1,090 secondary school dropouts. This is as far back as 2014-15. And a dropout is someone under the age of 16 who no longer attends school regularly. Under the age of 16, because in Trinidad and Tobago, 16 is the end of the compulsory age of schooling. So as far back as 2014-15 academic year, we were at 120 primary school students, 1,090 secondary school students dropping out of school. Go forward a year to 2015-16, 49, 1,015. 31, 13, 24, we're coming down in the years. 76, 10, 41. By the time we got to 2018-19, we were at 108 primary, 700 secondary. 2019-20, 140 primary, 508 secondary. 2020-21, 90 primary, 536 secondary. 2021-22, 80 primary, and 614 secondary. So we have seen those numbers coming down over the years, but it is still a significant number. And remember, there may be those over the age of 16 who don't have to attend school anymore by law, and so they may choose to come out. Dropouts are a serious issue for us, and that's one of the things we have to work to reduce. Academic performance is what we are working to increase. And we know over the COVID period, when our students were out of the physical school, we had issues with school performance because we understood that we were balancing the health of our population, we were balancing that with the ability of our students to perform in school. So in 2021, coming down to 2022, we saw a drop in performance, significant drop, and it worried us all because remember, we are speaking about trying to keep our children in school so that they are not attracted to a life of crime. So if we see student performance decreasing, that is a cause for serious concern. And in 2022, we reached a point where we knew we had to do some things to get our students back up and get their performance back up. And thankfully, we were able to do that. So we saw student performance in 2022, for example, in the SEA. We had 37% of our students scoring over 50% in SEA. By 2023, we were up to 58%. In the CSEC exam in 2022, we had 62% of all of the exams written being passed. In 2023, we were at 67%. So we are moving in the correct directions in terms of student performance and the school dropouts, but we have a lot more work to do. So the question is, what is the Ministry of Education doing to assist in engaging our students so we reduce dropouts and we increase academic performance so that our young citizens are not lured by a life of crime and they don't get into the gangs and the criminality? There are a number of areas that we are doing work in. So one would be student interventions, what we are doing for the students themselves, what we are doing at the school, what we are doing for our teachers, how we are putting resources into the education sector, and data and technology. So I'm going to go quickly just to touch on these areas so you understand. When you see your children doing things, when you see the education system doing things, when you're hearing from your teachers about what's happening, you understand that you are a big part of contributing to the reduction in dropouts and the increase in student performance. So some of our student interventions, you would have seen us do the Vacation Revision program. We have identified 106 schools, and we call them our schools of focus. And I'm sure you've heard me speak about this. Why have we identified those 106 schools? It's 26 secondary schools and 80 primary schools. Why have we identified them? Because these are the schools that the data shows us where we have the highest level of dropouts and the lowest student performance and the most student indiscipline. Therefore, these are the schools that need our greatest attention, our most resources. Because if we don't get it right for them, we won't get it right for anyone else. And this is where these children who are underperforming, these children who are behaving in ways that we would prefer they not behave, and these children who may be dropping out of school, these are the ones we have to be concerned about if we are trying to reduce youth in crime. So we have identified these schools using the data that the ministry has. And what are we doing in these schools? You would have seen us introduce the Vacation Revision program. Why? Because we understood that these students would have been most affected during COVID. These are the students who may not have logged on, though they may have had devices. These are the students who needed more support. So you would have seen us introduce that program so that even in the vacation time, they were able to immerse themselves in schoolwork to be able to catch up what they had missed. And that program has gone on for 2 years, and it will continue for 3 years further because we need a sustained effort for our children. In our 80 primary schools of focus, we have introduced, this is the second year running, free after-school lessons for our children. Again, why? These are our children who need more. And we have to use the scarce resources that we have as a government to give them more. So we have been doing that. We have partnered with TTMA and Unicoma. We thank them to introduce vision screening in our schools. Those 80 schools, we have partnered with TTMA, Unicoma, and recently UNICEF to test the eyes of those children in those schools to ensure that those who need eyeglasses get them. And why? Because we know that these children, many of them, come from situations where they may not even realize their eyes are bad. And they don't understand why they're not seeing, and we're seeing them not paying attention and giving trouble in class. A lot of it starts with the glasses. So we have partnered to do that, and that's ongoing in those schools. What have we done at the level of the school itself? At those schools of focus, we have revised the curriculum in Forms 1 and 2. Why have we done that? A lot of those students are going into Form 1 without the kinds of levels of skills in the fundamentals, math and English. If they are going into Form 1 without that, we can't give them the same curriculum that others are. Because if they are following that, they will be lost. And when a child is lost in school, they're not engaged, it breeds indiscipline. They're misbehaving because they're not seeing any point in what they are doing. So we, in those schools, we have said, give them a different curriculum that focuses on allowing them to get those skills, so that by Form 2, they should be able to develop those types of skills. And what have we said? We have said that any student who scored under 50 in the SEA, they must in Form 2 do the lower secondary proficiency examination. That's what you knew as primary school leaving. Why must they do it? Because a lot of those students in those 26 secondary schools of focus go into secondary school at age 14, age 15, some of them. And by Form 2 and 3, they are 16 years old, and they can make decisions, and they do make decisions to leave school. But what are they going to leave with? Nothing. And this is why we are saying in Form 2, do that examination, because that examination gives you something in your hand, and you can access at least the lowest levels of government jobs with your primary school leaving, which is now called the lower secondary. So if by chance they leave, they have something, and we are assured that they have a fundamental level of math and English, and they can take care of themselves. Because what happens when a child leaves school and cannot take care of themselves? How are they going to eat? They find children, you know, they make. How are they going to take care of their children? And then our social development bills get bigger and bigger. We are at 5 billion now. And that is money that the government uses to take care of people who cannot take care of themselves. So it is important for us to put things in place so that they can take care of themselves. The partnership with our community police, I want to thank the Minister of National Security. In 17 of our schools of focus, the police are there, the community police. They're not there to lock up our children, you know. They are there to mentor them, to encourage them to join the police youth clubs in their areas. They are there to give them guidance. Some of our children have no one to speak to them. They're going the wrong way, and they know they're going the wrong way, but no one is there to pull them back. So our community police are in our schools helping. And in those 106 schools, they are joined by the increased number of school social workers and guidance counselors that we have specifically hired to be in those schools. So there's more support for our children, because we understand that many of them have problems greater than you and I could ever imagine when they go home. So they need that support as well. So not only changing up the curriculum to help them get the fundamental skills, but also putting people who can speak to them, who understand them, and who can help them to make better decisions. We have started restorative practices in 11 of our secondary schools. What are those? That's how we teach our children to deal with conflict in a better way. All of us hate to see the school fighting. All of us hate to see our children dealing with conflict in the wrong ways. And that's what the restorative practices does. It helps them to understand how to deal better with conflict and challenges. So that we are speaking about supporting our children in school. And if we support them better in school, it means that it's less likely that they will drop out and more likely that they will perform better. Our teachers need help too, because our teachers need to be able to reach the children who are in front of them. They have to be able to have the skills, remedial skills, to teach them at the point of their need. So what have we done? Last academic year, we trained our teachers, trained them in remedial math, English, and writing so that they are better able to deal with children who have issues. So we trained primary school teachers, we trained some of our Form 1 teachers, and that training will continue because our teachers need to be equipped to deal with our students. Youth mentorship. Last year, we made a call for youth mentors. We said to people, you want to come into our schools and speak to our students? Come in, speak to them, give them the benefit of your experience. And this year, we have made that call again. And we are going out again to our schools with volunteers from our society who have experiences and who want to share them with our students. We have asked the Defense Force and the Police Service to supply us with other people, and we are working on getting them as well into our schools to speak to our young people, because some of them don't have the benefit of parents to speak to them. So someone has to intervene, and the Ministry of Education is working to do that. We are planning our business forum for the Ministry of Education, and that should take place early February, where we are going to speak to our chambers, because we have a lot of corporate support for our schools. However, there's also something very important called equity in educational opportunity. And you know that there are some schools that get the benefit of a lot of sponsorship. They have strong alumni associations, strong PTA associations, and they get a lot of help. But there are some schools who don't get that. But the schools that don't get it are the schools that need it the most. So we from the ministry, we are going to speak to the chambers. We're going to speak to the business people, and we are going to ask them to look at the schools that don't traditionally get support, and let's join together to support them, because you see, crime is everyone's business. And we can't close our eyes to the fact that in some cases our schools do need help. The government can't do it alone. And so we are going out to our chambers, and we know they'll be receptive. You know how we know? Because when we went to them in 2020 and asked them to help us to adopt a school, donate devices to schools, the business community of Trinidad and Tobago donated over 40,000 devices to our schools and our children. So we know that they are willing to help us, and we are going out there with our structured, expanded Adopt a School program to help the schools that need it the most. You would have seen us speak about the school discipline matrix. You would have seen us speak about the fact that there must be consequences for actions, and where we have students who, despite our best efforts, are not responding to positive encouragement in their behavior, we have to get them into environments where they can be helped. So you would have heard us speak about our partnership with MILAD through the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service, and we also are partners with Serval for a long time. And we are actively looking at each child in each school. Where the file comes up to me personally for extended suspension, we are looking at it. We are looking at what interventions have been made. And where we have to take action, we are taking action, because the other thing that encourages misbehavior is a lack of consequences. And we are not about to allow our students to go forward thinking that their actions have no consequence. And so we are glad for that partnership, putting resources into our schools again to get those children the help that they need. We have looked at the national test. Some of you remember the national test. We have reformed that national test. Why? Because we need data from down in our schools, and we need it quickly. So whereas that national test took place at Standard 1 and 3 and Form 3, and everyone used to do it, and the results would take very long to get back. We have looked at the best practices, and we have reformed that. So we get the data a lot more quickly, and we are looking at the background of the students that are doing the test. So it's a random sample of our schools and our students. And we have been able in the last academic year, using that prescription for the national test, to get back data very quickly that shows us some important trends. What we are seeing at SEA is happening lower down in our schools. So we have been looking at the math and English scores and writing scores of our standard 1 and our standard 3 students. And because we have changed the format of the national test, we call it now the Trinidad and Tobago Learning Assessment, we are seeing the patterns down in standard 1 and standard 3. So I can tell you tonight that the problem we are seeing in standard 5 at SCA and translating into secondary school at Form 1 and going forward, that's happening between standard 1 and standard 3, because you can see clearly a huge drop in performance, especially at math, between standard 1 and standard 3. So what has that information gotten a lot more quickly because we changed the format of the testing? What does that information allow us to do? That data allows us now to plan how to deal with our standard 1, 2, and 3 teachers, how to assist them in the particular areas so that our students are able to perform better. Again, remember, the link is student performance, dropouts, and crime. So we want to increase performance, decrease dropouts, so that we decrease youth involvement in crime. So all of these, you would notice I spoke about a range of different things, going down from the primary school, the secondary school, all of this, to ensure that we have a holistic look at what's happening in our education sector, that we are collecting the data that is required so that we can put the policies into place. And I'm not describing plans. I am reporting to you what is actually happening now in our schools. I am sure parents, you would have heard your students, your children coming home and saying to you that there are things that they must do in school, that the schools must have a kitchen garden, that our students must take part in an entrepreneurial activity at the school. You would have heard your children saying these things to you. You may have heard teachers saying these things to you. Why? Because our students must have a richer, deeper, more engaging school experience. And that is when we speak about the cultural transformation of education. No longer can we allow our students to just be lost by the wayside. They must take part in sports. So our schools must have a sports day. You might be surprised that some schools, they've fallen away on that. You must have a sports day. You must have a career day to give our students a future look at what they want to do. You must have a kitchen garden. If you're speaking about food security and more healthy eating, Minister of Health, our students must be engaged in learning these things at the school level. All of these things allow our students a deeper, richer, more engaging school experience. And if they are engaged, they are less likely to drop out, and they are more likely to increase their performance. Again, we are speaking about how the education sector is contributing to our youth not being lured into a life of crime. So as I close tonight, I want you to take a look at what your child is doing in school. Your child, your grandchild, your niece, your nephew. Take a look. And wherever you can assist and you can support your schools, come out and support them. They need your support because crime is everyone's business and education is everyone's business. And if we all, as citizens, take the view that we are going to support our children, we are going to support our young citizens, then and only then will we have the best chance in education to develop the citizens that will take the national development of Trinidad and Tobago on a positive trajectory. So the direction we want to go is up. The direction we are going is up. The work we are doing in the Ministry of Education is broad and wide-ranging. but it is important work, and it's the work that we all as citizens must be involved in. Education is the bedrock of the PNM. Education has always been the bedrock of the PNM. And anytime we look at the excellence in education that we have developed, even with our challenges, that must inspire us to end with such a chant, as we all love to say, that great is the PNM, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and we shall prevail.
The people of Sawa, as the Honorable Minister said, the people of St. Anne's, surely you can make some more noise for the Honorable Minister of Education. Honorable Minister, as a mother myself, I want to say thank you very much for what you are doing for our country's children. Of course, you are ably assisted by your minister in the ministry, Miss Lisa Morris-Julian, the Honorable Lisa Morris-Julian. Brothers and sisters, as we speak about ably assisted, allow me to recognize the one, the only, our Lady Vice Chair, the Honorable Camille Robinson-Regis. Allow me to recognize our party treasurer, the Honorable Haji Kazim Hussein. Allow me to recognize my brother from the Senate, the minister in the Ministry of Agriculture, Senator the Honorable Avinash Singh. I see my sister in the Senate, the Honorable Minister of Trade and Industry, Senator the Honorable Paula Gopi Schoon. I see Simon, the Honorable Mr. Simon Dano Brega, the Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister with the responsibility for communication. I see a sour man, the Vice President of the Senate, Mr. Yunus Ibrahim. I see the Honorable Lisa Morris-Julian. Let me recognize her. And of course, we are in the Regional Corporation of Sawa-Laventille. So let me just recognize Kwesi Antoine, Mr. Carl Celestin. This is your own, so make some noise. Mr. Carl Celestin, Darren Corridon, Shaniqua Harris, Adana Griffith Gordon, and as the night go by, I will recognize each of your hard-working PNM councillors. Trinidad and Tobago, when we look at what is happening in the world today, we see that nations of the world, we see that nations of the region are battling with crime and criminality. Crime and criminality is not a Trinidadian and Tobagonian problem alone, brothers and sisters. It is a world epidemic. Brothers and sisters, I ask you, I plead with you, do not for a second believe that we, the People's National Movement, that we, the government, do not hear and do not understand the cries of the victims of crime, more so their families. Brothers and sisters of Trinidad and Tobago, do not believe for a second that we as government ministers sit in ivory towers, oblivious to the hurt and the fear you experience each and every day for your families. Brothers and sisters, we too are parents, and our children use the streets of Trinidad and Tobago. So we too understand your fear. We too understand your concern. But Trinidad and Tobago, despite how challenging it is, despite how bleak it may seem at times, as a government, what we will never do at the People's National Movement is give up in our fight to protect each and every citizen of this beloved country. Trinidad and Tobago, we will continue to persevere and protect each and every one of your citizens. We will continue to fight those criminal elements that exist. So to report to you, Trinidad and Tobago, on the continuous efforts made by our government in this fight against crime, in this continuous fight against crime, I ask you to put your hands together as we welcome to the lectern, Laventille West. Let me hear you. Put your hands together as we welcome to the lectern Trinidad and Tobago, the Minister of National Security, the Honorable Fitzgerald Hines.
Keep the vibes and I stood my grounds. They will never ever take my crown. Oh, Jah bless, I say no man curse. Things getting better when they thought it would be worse. Here comes the officers asking for a search. They found no weapon, just only a drovers. But I'm so sad it does a rock. They just can't stop me now.
They could never stop this. Rastafari! God is great. We have no fear of nothing. We do the business in the name and with the power of Almighty God. Jah! Rastafari! The political leader of the People's National Movement, strong and proud as we always have been and will continue to be, Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley. I recognize our Lady Vice Chairman, Madame Camille Robinson Regis, and of course our party chairman, the young, vibrant Stuart Young, no pun. All the other members of the executive of the Great People's National Movement, in particular the matriarch, as we have recognized, Madam Joan Yule Williams, advisor to the political leader, all of my cabinet colleagues, all of my parliamentary colleagues, in particular Dr. Nyan Gatsby-Dolly, who just addressed us on serious issues, doing serious work from the Ministry of Education, the Member of Parliament for St. Anne's East, and of course, Senator the Honorable Sagram Singh Suklal, doing a wonderful, energetic, soulful job as chairman of these proceedings and here with us on the head table. And of course, Mr. Richard Walcott, the chairman of the Sawa-Laventil Regional Corporation, alderman as he is, and proudly the chairman of the Laventil West constituency of the People's National Movement. All the other councillors of Council of the Sawa-Laventil Regional Corporation, party members, friends, well-wishers, let me recognize among us, very importantly, Assistant Commissioner of Police, Mr. Subero, a true community police, always with us in Sawa-Laventil. Happy to see you. Senior Superintendent Edwards, who leads the Northeastern Division of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. All the other police officers present here tonight, ensuring our safety, peace, and security. And of course, I recognize all members of the protective services. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, peace and blessings to you all. Our decisions, our choices, the things we do and the things we don't do all go together as individuals, as heads of households, as business leaders, as citizens. These all impact on the nation and what we will be and where we are going as a country. The government allocated $6.2 billion to the Ministry of National Security in the last budgetary presentation. And last year, we oversaw, led by the Prime Minister, a major policy shift where we began to see crime and violence as a public health concern like COVID-19 and treat it in the way we do, or did. We have therefore to take a whole of government approach, a whole of society approach, recognizing that everyone, every group, every institution play a part in dealing with the question of crime and violence, as indeed everyone had to take a role in dealing with COVID-19, including you as individuals. Just imagine, and the minister showed the link between education and crime, showed it quite clearly. Just imagine, Mr. Richard Walcott, one of my constituents brought my attention to the fact that many light bulbs were out of service in the community pockets of darkness. I gave him the assurance that I will contact TNTech, and I did so and got TNTech to go into that community along with elements of the protective services, because TNTech don't want to go because of the behavior of some of us without security, and they went. And even without security, the brother tells me that a certain gangster in the neighborhood grumbling about light. He don't want no light there. So he had to be ignored, and of course with the presence of the police service, the lights went up, and the larger community, which doesn't support his narrow, selfish pestilence, are quite happy about what was done. But all of us have a role to play. The police, the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, the fire service, the prison, the Ministry of Health. Mental health is important to all of us, and generate crime too, issues. The Ministry of Social Development, dealing with people who can't deal with affairs according to market forces for themselves. The Ministry of Education, housing. If you don't have no place to live, or you have a place that you can't afford, you're on the streets. The Ministry of Housing attends to that, as it has been doing since 1961. We liaise with all NGOs, all faith-based organizations, our regional and international partners. That is how we dealt with COVID-19. That's the way we are approaching crime and violence. Because a lot that is happening in Trinidad does not have roots in Trinidad. The guns and the drugs and the illegal immigrants and persons trafficked come from outside. So we take that new approach. Some of us are determined to work hard and honestly for what we want, confidently that with hard work, with sacrifice, and with the blessings of Jah, we will achieve. But there are others who, with the dirty little 9 and the dirty little AR-15, feel them could come and bully everybody in the community and take what you have, including your daughter sometimes, including your house. That is what we're dealing with in Trinidad and Tobago, and I dare say the world. And it is our business in national security to provide peace and safety and security to every one of you. We have carefully assessed this problem, and in attempting to resolve it, we decided that we have to pay particular attention to our borders. Because as I told you, a lot of the problems we have is transnational, coming from outside, entering our illegal ports, illegal points of entry, and entering even our legal ports. So we give that top priority. That unsober lady, she said, we don't have no war here, and the fight is on the land, not on the sea, demonstrating her empty ignorance at what the problems are. And as a result of that stupidity and ignorance, leading a government in 2010, they canceled the OPV project. 3 vessels we paid for to patrol our waters, to keep watch night and day, canceled that. That had helicopter capacity, fast speedboat capacity, they licked down that. That wasn't all, you know. Minister Young will tell you, we had cameras at the airport with facial recognition as they reached, they licked down that. There were cameras around the Prime Minister residence. As she reached, she licked down that. They take down the blimp, which was the best technology at that time. They pull it down too. You could see them don't like law and order. Them just like the brother I tell you about in the community. They don't like light. They like darkness to do their wickedness in high and low places. And you know, that contract for the OPVs, there was no suggestion of any corruption or any bribe in it. And I have a feeling that is one of the reasons, because by the time they came in 2010, that deal was already done. The vessels were already being prepared for us. Coast Guard officers trained, and as a result, They closed it down. I have a feeling it had to do with because they didn't get an opportunity to put their slimy hands in that. And then they went ahead and ordered some small vessels from a company called Damen, who we do business with from that time. I am told by the experts who did the assessment for those vessels that a firm from Colombia was the preferred firm, based on price and based on all the arrangements, but not so for the CAMLA and the UNC. They disregard that, and the next thing you know, we end up with these vessels. That led to the Dutch government launching an investigation into fraud and corruption and bribery in that deal. And while we are in government, we know that matter is being investigated by them. But we have the vessels, we use the vessels. Today they are in need of repair and upgrade, and I'm happy, as the Prime Minister announced today, we have settled a contract with Damen to repair the 12 of those vessels. So very shortly, they will all be back in service for the benefit of the people of this country. And at that time, the big mouth one called Gary, who I hear some people calling G-string, he was her advisor. He was Minister of National Security for 14 months. He became some big expert, you know, for 14 months. And he was an advisor. He was part of that decision. So since the fight was not at sea, they went and they got these vessels. And they got them in 2014. UNC was in power. Kamla was Prime Minister. G-String was advisor. And Nairi Alfonso was lawyer. So it is clear to me that they engage in contracts to make deals like the Point Fortin Highway, like the QREP interchange, and of course these vessels. So brothers and sisters, what we have done in the last few years is to purchase 2 brand new Cape-class vessels from Australia, hostile vessels which are in service on the high seas around Trinidad and Tobago now, making great impact on our border security. We are in the process of acquiring some more scanners for our ports, mobile scanners, hand scanners, stationary container scanners to support the customs and our border patrol forces. The TTPS established a riverine and coastal patrol section. They have several vessels, and they look at our coastlines and the little river inlets, the Caroni River, the one down in Maruga down there, and many others that the larger vessels can't attend to. So they pay attention from the coastline to 2 miles out. The riverine patrol of the coast, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. And the Coast Guard has a number of those smaller vessels doing that kind of work as well. I have had the benefit on patrolling on the Cape-class vessel with them, the Prime Minister and I've also had the benefit of patrolling one day on the smaller vessels doing the little riverine things. Important work. We have engaged in AirCop and CCOP, 2 international arrangements, best practice arrangements, where we have vetted units from Trinidad and Tobago, particularly the police, Coast Guard, Immigration, Customs, everybody working together in AirCop for the airports and CCOP for the seaports, highly trained and skilled. And then we have the Transnational Organized Crime Unit, TOCU, which pays particular attention to our ports and those little, what they call transit sheds, where importation and distribution of things happen. And you would have seen in the last year and a half or so, we paid particular attention to them, and we had cause because guns were coming there like rain. The police finding guns in a particular one every week, and we shut that down, and another one too. And then I want to tell you, all who talking stupidness about there's no fight, you don't need nothing on the sea. We are part of what they call the Joint Interagency Task Force with the United States Southcom. They patrol the seas, the Atlantic, the Caribbean Sea. And as minister, I can tell you, every single week, the Trinidad and Tobago representatives in that international body report to me, and every single week, and I'm not exaggerating, exaggerating. They seized 10, 15, 20 tons of cocaine, drugs, on those high seas, which otherwise would have entered spaces like Trinidad, Grenada, St. Vincent, Jamaica, Dominica, and create the havoc that they are creating all of the time. So the high seas are important. We have a serious gun retrieval program underway as well, mopping up the illegal guns in Trinidad and Tobago, because while you protect the borders, inside the place already bad and dirty, you know. So you have some sanitization to do. Because 90% of our murders are committed with firearms. And it is that traumatizing you. Because you going about your lawful business and two boys show up with a 9 or two boys show up with the AR-15 and all kind of thing is crazy. They come in and spraying down the block, 3, 4 people dead at a time. So we have to go after those guns, and the police are mandated to do that. Robberies are committed with these guns, and many other crimes, including rape and all kinds of assaults. Driving fear in the hearts of you, the people. So the police are mandated to do that. And we work closely with the United States. They have agencies that from the US operating on the ground here with us. And we have recently formed the CARICOM Gang Intelligence Unit, where all of the countries of CARICOM now in this unit, they share information. So today, I received a report where a Grenadian national who committed murder and was wanted by the Grenadian police, he found himself in Trinidad, and this morning they went and collect him and he will be promptly handed over to the Grenadian authorities. So this is, when I talk about regional cooperation, this is what I'm talking about. You see the fellow who I just talked, the noisy little half-educated, egotistic, narcissistic little noise maker? While he was commissioner, and the Prime Minister has already told us that was the biggest mistake that he has ever made. But one man's trouble is another man's thing, because I can tell you, one of my biggest achievements as far as I'm concerned was to see the back of Gary Griffith as Commissioner of Police in Trinidad and Tobago. They could say what they want. Because while he was commissioner for 3 short, dirty years, he granted close to 8,000 firearm licenses. And that meant plenty guns of all descriptions. That meant more guns and more licenses than all the other police commissioners add up together since independence. So I have here an affidavit sworn and filed by the Commissioner of Police, Madam Erla Christopher Yearwood, in a certain matter. And let me tell you the name of the matter, because this is public record. Tawfiq Ali and the Firearms Training Institute, his business, and the Commissioner of Police, where he took the commissioner to court for not granting import license for millions of rounds of ammunition. I think 3.7 million rounds of ammunition. The commissioner, of course, exercising her authority and following the policy of the government, which is a restrictive policy, which says we will grant firearms to those who could show that they have some risk and they need it. But not just give it out like hot bread. But whenever we say that, they say we are attacking legal firearm owners, which is not the case. We have always, long before the noisy little boy, long before we have been granting firearm licenses in this country. So no Johnny come lately could come and tell we different. But there was disquiet, she says, there was disquiet in the public media of allegations of corruption in the granting of increased numbers of firearm users' licenses. There's the commissioner present speaking about previous commissioner activity. Several fact-finding inquiries were established, as you all know. She went on to say, grave concerns about the increasing level of gun violence in the country, including civilians being licensed to have several high-powered rifles in their possession. The arbitrary granting of FULs, all kind of Tom, Dick, Harry, and their dog and their cousin gets firearm license in this country. And I could call names, but it would not be a wholesome thing to do. But I could tell you, it includes people with conviction, it includes deportees, and it includes people who superintendent of police in their divisions say absolutely not, based on what we know in this division, and they were still granted license by that commissioner of police. The failure of the police to carry out regular inspections of firearm dealers in accordance with Section 26(3) of the Act. An overall concern about a gun culture in Trinidad and the arming of the civilian population, where having a legally issued firearm is becoming a status symbol. And she finally says here, retired Justice of Appeal Stanley John, having assessed that situation, describes it, and I quote, as a thriving, well-oiled, white-collar criminal enterprise being conducted under the nose of the then commissioner. This is what the commissioner of police telling the court. This is on public record. And I want to share one little piece of this further with you. She says at paragraph 12, I am particularly concerned about the risk which large quantities of ammunition in the country pose. The presence of same has the potential to fuel gun violence in the country, both with the use of illegal firearms and those licensed under the Act. So let me go quickly now to some statistics for you. And I want to share this with you. In 2016, the then commissioner or commissioners allowed 1,620 guns to be imported. In 2017, 1,666. In 2018, that jumped to 2,720, early o'clock. In 2018, 5,422. In 2019, I think COVID slowed down a little bit, 2,720, but in 2020, ladies and gentlemen, 64,553. And insofar as ammunition is concerned, in 2016, 6.1 million rounds, in other words, 6,100,000. In 2017, 4.7 million rounds. In 2018, 2.6 million rounds. In 2019, 8.3 million rounds. And ladies and gentlemen, in 2020, 57,194,173 rounds. And for the little time that was left in 2021, 18.8 million of them. And this affidavit goes on to point out, not 9 millimeter, 5.56 military grade ammunition, and 7.62, which the United Nations banned from use in civilian communities, and the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service and the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force put a stop to using that years ago. And these were allowed to be imported by the million. No wonder why. When the police go on a murder scene now, it is no longer uncommon. It has now become a feature in crime scenes now. You're finding 94, 100, 57, 7.62 military grade. That busting through 10 people and killing the 11th. And that's what killed a woman in Malabar some time ago who was in her bedroom. Recklessness, misjudgment, contrary to government policy. And so the story went. There were about 9 dealers in 2018. By the time it was finished, there were about 34 of them. And one of them was this fellow who bring the action. Another one of them was a police inspector as a police inspector. And Mr. Stanley John, and I, and the Prime Minister, and by the way, the judge too, because a matter came up that Gary Griffith went to the court with, because every time we want to tell you the facts, he ran to court like a little sissy. He don't want you to hear the facts. He don't want you to know the truth. He sent me pre-action protocol letter, and I saw another one coming tomorrow. But I have court closed. You know I'm attorney at law myself. And I stand on a platform of truth. The judge, in dealing with the matter, when the judge heard half of this, the judge said, if the Prime Minister, as chairman of the National Security Council, did not act on that kind of information, which is a clear threat to national security, it would have been a dereliction and an abdication of his duty. And as we all know, we Prime Minister is a man of sterner stuff. He don't do that at all. He make decisions. So we have a serious problem with legal and illegal firearms. And then there's the concept of diversion. By that we mean guns and ammunition in legal hands diverted to illegal use or going to illegal hands. You see, yesterday, unfortunately, and may his soul rest in peace, and we extend condolences, they took the life of a police officer in this country yesterday. And they took his firearm. That is what we mean. Some women don't want to rebuild their anguish, but in San Fernando, she was killed with someone with a licensed firearm. He had 5, and he went on the crime scene with 2 and killed his ex-wife. You remember that? In San Fernando. And meanwhile, you're hearing, not one firearm that I had anything to do with was involved in anything. The FIB, the FIU, the Financial Intelligence Unit, are legally constructed body to look at the movement of money, to follow the money, went to find out a little bit about that account and that of his wife, and ran to court again like a sissy. Want to block that? What do you have to hide? You talk so much. Let everybody know. One time when I was a senator, they accused me of corruption for my little house. And I went in a press conference and in the parliament the next day and tell them, I wrote a letter to the commissioner, I wrote a letter to the chairman of the Integrity Commission, I wrote a letter to my bank manager saying any one of them want to come and investigate my affairs, they could feel free. I had nothing to hide. Come out. What you want to hide so? You can run, but you can't hide. Yeah, Bob Marley, Rastafari. So we have a serious problem. And then I read some dispatches from the Crime Talks a couple nights ago. And I heard Dr. Daisley, by the way, 2 men died in police custody, beaten to death, following the Andrea Barrett murder, rape and murder. These 2 men lost their lives for the first time, as far as I know, in the history of policing in this country. Beaten to death in police custody. And somebody came and tell us a man fall off a table like we stupid. And you want to trust them so for your safety and security? So Dr. Daisley, he could tell you a lot about that, because I understand he did post-mortem on behalf of the families after the Forensic Science Center. So he know a lot. But he didn't say it the other night. But he told us about a criminal when before you were born, Senator Sagram Singh, called Dalip Singh. Dalip Singh was a fellow who was charged for, and hanged, for committing murder. He killed his wife. But he was a doctor, a pathologist. And would you believe he presented himself in the autopsy room and performed the autopsy on the woman? So when I hear them so talking about crime, I just remember Dalip Singh, because them create plenty of it and now coming like he to perform autopsy to tell us what to do to solve it. I don't wish to hear them. I can't hear them. Deadly and dangerous. I can't hear them. So let me tell you what we're dealing with. Let me tell you what we're dealing with. First of all, them say state of emergency. She says state of emergency. He say no. But they fall out before, over Ramlogan and Ramdeen. Remember that? I don't know when they make back up on how, but she need to tell you all first, how come this sweet so again? He was fired from her cabinet because of them. She was protecting them as prime minister. So don't let them fool you, Not because you're seeing she every Monday morning now in a blue dress, On principle that she is, she abandoned the yellow, She only wearing blue now. She need to tell us when and how and where. I see Jack on the platform too. She need to explain to you when and how and what on the basis for the makeup. Because now they got, according to the book of Psalms, they gather themselves together against the soul of the righteous and condemn the innocent. But Jah is my defense. And Jah is the rock of my refuge. And he shall bring upon them their own outerquity. But the Bible says in iniquity. That lady. So I hear he talking about state of emergency. I say, what? We declared a state of emergency on the 15th of May 2021 because of COVID. It lasted for 6 months. I was Minister of National Security at that time. I expected the police service and the law enforcement platform to carry out some serious targeted strikes during those. Led by nothing. On the other hand, when I inquired for that 6 months, they issue state of emergency passes, right? To allow certain parliamentarians and people to go about their business, although it's because we finished in parliament late and so on. When I check for the 6 months, it's 22,000 the man issued, That is 3,666 a month, You hear the number? Beast, A month, And I understand what happened here because I was told at that time, I don't know, somebody told me that these passes were being sold in South for $5,000 each. We just corrupt everything in Trinidad. Yeah. And I, as Minister of National Security, received number 1 because I have it, still have it. Pass number 1, Minister of National Security. Well, I expect pass number 2 to be the Prime Minister, Stuart Young, Camille, and my colleagues. You know who was number 2? A firm called Sport Outlet. When you do the check, that is a firm that was owned and managed by a fellow called Hugh Leong Poi. And you all may not know him, but we know him good. Because we have a colleague in the parliament who is now before the court for some fraud allegations, along with that man, the same Hugh. So I still want to know on what basis does a sports store owner need a state of emergency pass? But the relationship was strong and remains strong. We of the government, we have a different view. We don't believe that you have to convert no anti-gang law to no terrorist law. In first place, terrorism has to do with something political, something philosophical, where you use violence to achieve a political end. You can't do that with them ordinary criminals, so. Not because they're using automatic weapons and we have a good idea how they get them. No. So we reject that. We, on the other hand, went to what we call a JIPA, where we moved in the parliament an amendment to the criminal justice law, which allows for the removal of the time-wasting preliminary inquiry. So now the DPP could leapfrog a matter. Somebody get charged now, and the DPP could file the indictment straight in the High Court. No more 20 years, 25 years waiting for justice. Swift justice. That's what we did. they're talking to about Jamaica and special operation zones. So Jamaica doing that, yes, having special state of emergencies, limited state of emergencies in different parishes. Well, unfortunately, to show that these things don't necessarily work because they don't get at the root causes of crime, we had that here in 2020, and we didn't get at the root causes. We had it in 2011, we didn't get at the root causes. So it has its purpose, but not to get at the root causes of these crimes that we're facing. But I want to tell you, at the end of, by the 15th of this month, Jamaica was having murders like, with all of them state of emergency. So we know from their experience that's not necessarily the formula. And I did a comparison. I hear people saying, look, the Jamaican have a law. If they catch you with a gun, no questions asked, straight jail. Well, that is a myth. That is not true. Jamaica have court of appeal, they have privy council. They don't work so. They have to find evidence to convict people the same way. So that is a myth. But more than that, I did that law, and that law is the environmentally sensitive species scarlet ibis legal notice of 2018. You could be fined $100,000. But when the police, catch a fella with a firearm in the Quaysay or anywhere for that matter, they go to court, they get fined $3,000, $2,500, gun with 16 rounds, reprimand and discharge, a little tap on the wrist. So I am calling from this pulpit tonight, political pulpit, me no priest. I am calling for all of us in Trinidad and Tobago to collaborate, to work together. We all live here, we all suffer here at the hands of these criminals, including the judiciary, and pay attention to the way we respond to criminality in this country. It breaks the police morale when they spend 6 months doing undercover work, watching people night after night, and then they catch the man with the gun, and by later the evening, he out again with the next one, threatening people in the community again. Bail, 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 the court. Somebody singing like he had a VAT 19 there. Save some for somebody else. Eh? Brothers and sisters, we have a problem too. We have a problem in this country with officials of law enforcement who are not operating in accordance with their oath and not operating with integrity as we expect they should. And brothers and sisters, it is for that reason that this government has taken to Parliament, and our leader of the House, Camille Robinson-Regis, assures me that in a few days we will resume the debate on the polygraphing or integrity testing of every single officer of the police service, the defense force, the fire service, the prison service, the customs, the immigration, the registrar general's department, and inland revenue, because we consider all of the people, some of the people working in those areas are exposed to sensitive information that could bear directly on national security. And that is how we are responding to this, in this case, legislatively. So we look forward to going and continue that. We also have decided to increase the numbers and to support the police's expectation of more and more personnel. As I speak to you, we have 159 recruits in the police training college under training. And as you know, the government announced in the last budget that the Commissioner of Police and her leadership team must recruit 1,000 police officers in 2024. That process began last Saturday when thousands of citizens showed up in San Fernando and at the police academy in St. James to be selected to become police officers. And we will involve you, the public, because we will insist that their pictures, every one of the 1,000 of them, be put in the newspaper in color with their address and the numbers that you, the citizens, can call if you have any discomfort. Because last week, Saturday, the police found 3 known gangsters among that crowd and plucked them out and tell them go and look for work elsewhere. So you will have an opportunity to say, without deceit, if that young man or that young woman is a good, solid person who deserves the office, the uniform, the privilege, the honor to be a police officer. And if you feel otherwise, you are equally entitled to say so. And I will expect that you will do that. I expect that you will do that. In respect of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, 10 divisions, they have a task force, operational force and gang units in every one of them. We have the homicide division, the CID, Special Branch, TOCU, FIB, Fraud Squad, ACIB, the PSB, all of these are units of the police service. The large IATF, the large GB, the SIU, and we have an operational team called the Multi-Operational Unit, MOPS. We have 10,000 police officers, 7,005 regulars, and 2,005 full-time SRPs available for work. And I think, ladies and gentlemen, that you will agree with me that this entire, all of these units should be immediately unleashed on the criminals in Trinidad and Tobago to bring back some peace and some sanity and safety to our existence. Brothers and sisters, time has run. It was a pleasure talking to you. And as I close, I give you the assurance under the watch of the National Security Council, under the astute, sober, dignified leadership of its chairman, Dr. Keith Rowley, we at the Ministry of National Security are deeply committed to improving the capacity of the institutions that must work for you, to providing them with the resources, to providing them with clear government policy to execute and carry out in your interests. I give you the assurance we will not shirk from that responsibility, and we are confident that with the efforts that we are putting in, with the work that we are doing, I expect that it will get severely better. I thank you all very much. Good luck and God bless.
They can't keep a good man down, always keep a smile.
Let us put our hands together as our Minister of National Security reported to you, Trinidad and Tobago. And this I want to reiterate again to every law-abiding citizen of this country, the People's National Movement, your government. We will continue to fight. We will not continue to fight you, but we will continue to fight for you. We will continue to fight for security to be returned, safety and security to be returned to this nation. So let us give the Honorable Minister a round of applause. And to bring some love and to bring some joy and happiness to our celebration today, let us put our hands together through music. Welcome on stage, I, Sasha.
Saba, are you ready then? Yeah. All you ready? Good night, no to one another. Yeah. Yo, my PNM family. Come on, say let's do this. Chin be go, are you ready? Yeah. We rolling with the red army. Yo, for the love of your country, please your vote with the PNM family. Saba, are you ready? Yeah. We rolling with the red army. Yo, for the love of your country, please your vote with it. Say, come on, my people, let's stand together underneath the red, white, and black banner, yeah. Burn out corruption like leaves, it a scatter. Tricks and insult the people, them flattered. The partnership done sink already. We rolling steady with Dr. Keith Rowley. Ready the right time, I've made up my mind to build. Let me hear all you. Say, let's do this. I need sour. Let's do this. Well, are you ready? Yeah. Let's do this. Yo, for the love of your country, place your vote with it. Saba, get ready, yeah. We rolling with the red army. Yo, for the we often boast and say God is a Trini. A blessed nation, the Caribbean envy. I love a sun like the place get heavy. Things not move right, cause God no like ugly. Say, come on my people, let's do this together. Build back this nation for one another. Say, come on, the children deserve better. Brighter days are beautiful. Say, let's do this. So why ain't all you? Let's do this. Brother, you ready? Yeah, yeah. Let's do this. Yo, for the love of your country, place your vote for the PNM. Let's do this. So are you ready? Yeah. We rolling with the red army. Yo, for the la. Dr. King to Rowley, a leader phenomenal. The UNC full of pirates and criminals. Send for the duck, cause the state is critical. Searching to perform, and this country's political structure. And he is the doctor we need. 24 years veteran, him born to lead. If you love PNM, family sour, come on, sing with me. Yeah. So let's do this. Sour, are you ready? Yeah. We rolling with the red army. Yo, for the love of your country, place your vote for the. Saba, are you ready? Yeah? We rolling with the red army. Yo, for the Saba, I love all you. All protocols observed. Say Saba. Say PNM. Say Saba. PNM. I love all you. Come on, yeah.
Sawa, let me hear you for Sasha. And as we are celebrating the love in Sawa, let us recognize some of our warriors who are on the ground day after day selling the PNM story. Sawa, some of your counselors, Miss Jody Johnson. Allow me to recognize Junior St. Hilaire. Sawa, make some noise, that is your own. Allow me to recognize Janice Coward Charles. Allow me to recognize Israel Joseph Charles. Allow me to recognize Sherwin D. Jones. Allow me to recognize that little powerful lady, Miss Kimberly Small. And the handsome Kadeem Graham. And of course, we can't forget my friend, Mr. Raphael John. Sawa, can you feel the love? I know I would have mentioned Mr. Dana Griffith Gordon, but I'm seeing one of your supporters pointing you out again. So let us make some noise for Mr. Dana Griffith Gordon. And we will continue to fight for you, Trinidad and Tobago. As God is my witness, every single PNM soldier, whether we sit in central government or local government, we will continue to do our part to fight for you. Brothers and sisters, allow me to also recognize Mr. Indar Parasram, the election officer of the People's National Movement. And we know election is very, very important to us because pretty soon things are going to happen. Trinidad and Tobago, as we continue our lineup, I make a clarion call to every decent, every patriotic, every right-thinking citizen of Trinidad and Tobago to leave what you are doing right now as we are about to invite the next speaker to the political hustings. Trinidad and Tobago, I ask you to take note of what your government, what the PNM government is doing for you. And do not be fooled by the dotishness, and do not be swayed by the dotishness that day after day the UNC tries to bombard you with. Trinidad and Tobago, I now make a call to every young person of Trinidad and Tobago paying attention to our meeting tonight. The young people of Trinidad and Tobago, as we invite the next speaker, it will be your opportunity to educate yourself. It will be your opportunity to empower yourself with facts, not fiction. Brothers and sisters, In 2015, in an interview with Mr. Julian Rogers, and especially to the young people, the next speaker said, I came from a village where I did not have shoes like many others, but I did not envy those who had shoes. What I did, I took advantage of opportunities to lift myself and walk with those who did have shoes. Young people of Trinidad and Tobago, those were opportunities that were provided even back then by the People's National Movement. Because every great thing that we enjoy in this country, Trinidad and Tobago, was built by the People's National Movement. The first of 6 boys to have had the opportunity under a PNM administration to go to school. Trinidad and Tobago, the next speaker, in 2015, he led us to victory in a general election. In 2020, he led us to victory in a general election. And in 2025, we will do it thrice. He will lead us to victory as we beat them in the east, as we beat them in the west, as we beat them north, south, and in Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago, put your hands together as we welcome to the political hustings your leader, my leader, the Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley.
Anytime that you have to pay, but when people pass and they see you, oh my Lord, used to feel the shame. Wondering if this lasts forever, wondering when you will feel proud. If it's one thing Daddy didn't tell me, there is sunrise after each cloud. I say, even though the road is long, no matter what come, I know I'm gonna make it. Oh Lord, I'm gonna make it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. A very good night to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago at home and abroad. If you are my MP, you will not be there making that noise. So don't come with that. Tonight is for good behavior and good behavior alone. And I don't want to be disturbed. Ladies and gentlemen of Trinidad and Tobago, especially those of you who have gathered here at the Kweze for first in a long time, outdoor public meeting. It's a beautiful night, and the beautiful people of Trinidad and Tobago are gathered to look after their business. I would like to acknowledge all my cabinet colleagues and party officers, but that will take a long time. So consider yourself acknowledged, especially our councillors, and particularly those of you who have come from outside of the San Juan district to be here with us tonight. We accept your support, and we rely on your support as we proceed to do the business of Trinidad and Tobago. Tonight, I want to focus on a few things that are important to all of us, not the least of which is our safety and security. I don't know that there's one person in this country who can say to you that he or she was unaware of the fact that we are under attack by our own, a cancer born and bred in our own body here in Trinidad and Tobago, a handful of citizens who have chosen crime as a way of life, as a way to get the means of a livelihood, and would kill and would maim and would threaten as they advance themselves in their own interests. Violent crime is a reality in our society. And anybody who tries to tell you it's because of Mr. this or Mr. that, or Prime Minister this or Minister that, are just simplifying the issue in the hope of fooling you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a very serious problem. And the agency that has to deal with it and accept responsibility for it, for your safety and your security, is the government of Trinidad and Tobago. And as leader of that government at this time, I do not, and we in the cabinet, we do not resile from or shirk that responsibility. But it is not something that we can just miraculously say, come and it cometh, or go and it goeth. It is something that we have to engage, stay the course, and work together as a team with the population to root out those who have chosen crime and criminality as a way of life that threatens the rest of us with our way of life in this country. It's the government's job. But remember, the government cannot just act willy-nilly even as we deal with criminal conduct and criminals. Governmental action is guided, guarded by laws and regulations. There's a constitution that is written, and it gives rights to every single person, right up to the point if you're on death row, you still have rights. And of course, you know who uses those the most? The criminal element against the law abiding. And therefore, those who simplify the fighting of criminals, you have to watch them very closely. But those who have the responsibility to suppress crime and criminality, you have to give them a fair shake, accepting reality, getting the information from an unbiased source, and determining whether or not your interest is being served. You know, recently, we had a local government election. And as we went into that election, other persons in the political arena, as they want to do, were demanding that we call the election now, call the general election now. Because as far as they're concerned, they can do a better job. They have new and different ideas. And those ideas are not being put to use because they are out of office. But if we call the election now, and they get into office, they will then, of course, solve the problem. We didn't call the general election. We went through the local election. We're still in charge of corporations. They're still in charge of some corporations. But I want you to think, what would have been the situation today if a general election was called then, and those mouthpieces that you've been hearing all along up to today were in fact in government? And of course, let's suppose the government changed last Sunday, and they were speaking to you on Monday, as they did last Monday. What would you have expected to hear from them about fighting crime and criminality in our society? Because of course they had all the answers. They had all the plans and the programs to institute. They had all the accusations that the government is not doing anything. And therefore, as of Monday when they spoke, assuming that they were the new government, what did you expect to hear? Well, they spoke because they came out to have what they call crime talks. Because just before that, in response to a presidential address somewhere in the country, great enthusiasm was shown to an idea that the government and the opposition should meet and try to focus on finding some common ground in our response to the criminals. And that's a good idea. But I just want to tell the country something. As important as oil and water are in the human diet, in many instances they don't mix. And in most recipes, you don't want them in the same meal. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say to all of you tonight, there's no magic bullet, there's no magic event to take place if the opposition leader talks to the Prime Minister and vice versa. That does not a solution to our criminality make. If you have a decent opposition, as you have a willing government, and we meet and discuss and agree to make adjustments here and there, or to cooperate here and there, or to even carry a conversation saying that all of us who are law-abiding are on one side against the criminal element, then there is benefit in that. But if it is a magic that is supposed to occur, that if we meet, something dramatic will happen, you really think them gunmen outside there who choose crime and criminality as their benefit in this country will say, I'm not going to go out there and do the block that I'm doing, or carry out the work, as they call it, that I'm doing, because the Prime Minister talking to the opposition leader? You really believe that? So don't fool yourself with that. Focus on whether in fact you have a serious government responding seriously to this serious crime threat. Because you see, if they were the government on Monday, they threw up two major points. Because I didn't listen to their program, I watched the report that came out of it. Because I trust the media to speak on the issues that came out in their crime talks. And you know why we were not in any crime talks with them, even on Monday or the days before? It is because, as I had agreed as head of the government, yes, we could meet outside the parliament and talk, because we do meet inside the parliament, you know. When bills are laid before the parliament, it's laid before all 41 of us. When there's a speaker in the parliament taking a position on any matter from either side of the house, it is the government and the opposition. That's where they meet in the law, in the constitution, and that's where we do our job. But if we want to meet outside of that, okay. In response to this idea that we meet and talk, maybe informally and otherwise, I nominated 4 government ministers to be the government team, and held out to the opposition leader in writing that we should have a team of 8 people, and of course, we will both bring to that team whatever we think are the issues that should be addressed by us, some of which are already known to us because they came up in the parliament or in public debate, and any other which we may bring. And we should identify what we want us to talk about, and our 8-man team, which will include women, of course, we will look at it and see whether we can find common ground. And there's benefit in that. But what happened? As has happened before on another matter, the opposition leader talked loudly, because it's always for her an opportunity to score political points, because for them, if you all don't know by now, crime is for political benefit and advancement. And because we are under pressure now with excessive criminal conduct, they're happy like puppy, because that is the environment that they wanted, to believe that that will give them some political advantage. So here, you know the 4 PNM persons appointed by the Prime Minister to represent the government. Not me personally, because this is not personal to me. I am in a job, I am managing a team of ministers, there's a cabinet. And if the government and the opposition are to meet, and I identify a team of government persons, then everybody in the government is represented there. And what one will expect in a civil situation is that the opposition will appoint, therefore, whether it involves the leader or not, is no matter, but the opposition's point of view, meeting the government, and we can have discussions and advance it. The opposition leader, for the second time, refused to cooperate in such an arrangement. And I saw the Guardian today, in their normal misleading way, saying that both the government and the opposition have appointed teams, but the teams have not met. I had to tell the Guardian today in a press conference at Whitehall, stop pretending that you know something that I don't know. The country knows the government 4 people. The country does not know the UNC team of 4 people, because none was appointed. None was appointed. They had all kinds of subterfuge and making all kinds of demands, but the one thing they never did is to appoint 4 people. If they chose to appoint 4, 2 or 3, to join the government to sit down to talk. Because they're not really interested in any solution, you know. What exists now, they would like that to worsen, because they believe that will improve their political prospects. So anything that looks remotely like it will bring some success or improvement, they have to undermine that. So any talks that we were supposed to have, they undermine it before the mouth open. And I don't want the Guardian misrepresenting anything to you about opposition team, and then the leader of some chamber of commerce getting up and saying that the government should meet with the opposition as though the government has failed to meet with somebody. We are the ones who are prepared to meet. They are the ones who have done nothing to try to meet with us. But they can't criticize them, you know. If they go anywhere and they meet any of them doing anything wrong, they have to bring the PNM into it and say, all of them. We're not in the all of them story at all. The PNM is different. The PNM is different, and we are held to a higher standard. So as far as I am concerned, the reason why we've had no talks is because the opposition leader has refused to appoint a team and to come to meet the government team so we could talk about the various things. And it's not the first time she has done that, you know. When we had healthcare delivery as the biggest issue in the country, and we appointed the Welsh committee to examine and consult and prepare, as they did, 2 documents on healthcare delivery in Trinidad and Tobago. I took it to the cabinet, and the cabinet took it to the parliament, and the parliament authorized a joint select committee on the delivery of health care in this country. That committee has never met. The issue has never been dealt with in the parliament. The Welsh committee report was never examined in the parliament because Kamla Prasad Bisesa, as head of the opposition, flatly refused to appoint anybody from her side to a joint select committee on healthcare delivery. And you would ask her, is it that it wasn't important? Because our response to their constant nagging on the health system was to appoint the committee to bring information to us so that the parliamentarians could look at it and guide us. No. A joint select committee requires government, opposition, and independence. It never functioned because the opposition, for reasons best known to them, never appointed anybody to the committee. And it's the same thing they've done here now with this matter of security and safety. But talking loud about the situation in the country with respect to crime, criminality, and violence. So I ask you tonight, in Trinidad and Tobago, to ignore the noises from the opposition. Because it's a kind of Dalip Singh thing at Heinz talk about there, you know. You're probably looking to criminals to solve crime in this country. And if that's what you're doing, don't expect any other behavior. Don't expect it. So they had the meeting on Monday night without the government because the government approach wasn't accepted. They went and had their own crime talks. Generate point 1, state of emergency. Ladies and gentlemen, state of emergency. You know, those are the same people who facing a similar situation in 2011 when there was an upward surge of criminal conduct, and I think in one weekend 11 persons died. You know how they dealt with that? The then Prime Minister stayed in Philippines and announced a partial state of emergency. It took them 6 days to realize that there's no such thing in our country, and a full state of emergency was implemented 6 days later. The Commissioner of Police was out of the country in Brazil, and the Deputy Commissioner who was here never knew anything about the announcement of a state of emergency. And then you know what action followed that? The action that followed that was that they organized themselves. They used the security services, including the police, and they went out and they grabbed up, like when you're fishing and you throw a net, and they grabbed up over 8,000 people. Over 7,000 of them were charged for all kinds of things. And you will recall that the DPP had to go in the court and literally wipe out the charges because there was no basis to defend them. And virtually nobody faced a concluded trial in that situation. Later on, some of those persons started to sue the government You know what happened after that? When the cases, including one that said that there was an attempt by these people in that era to assassinate the Prime Minister and her ministers, the government responded to that by putting security and blue lights on Sharma vehicle, on Muninal vehicle, and the Prime Minister called me in my office to tell me, Keith, come, they're going to assassinate me. And send a police officer to tell me foolishness that Muslims coming to kill a Hindu Prime Minister. That happened in this country. And when the matter came to the court, and the Attorney General, who has to defend the public interest, wrote to Kamla Prasad Bisesa and Anand Ramlogan saying to them, we need you to go an affidavit to defend the public's use of a state of emergency because the state is under threat by these people. You know what both of them did? The SC, who is now opposition leader, replied saying she has not had enough time to peruse the document or to get legal advice, and refused to go on affidavit. The one called Anand Ramlogan, he says he has nothing to add to what the government is already going to court with. But of course, if you are the person involved, your testimony cannot be replaced by anybody else's testimony. But they made sure they did nothing to assist the state, where it was queried in the court, where the action was generated by them. I could tell you, I was Minister of Agriculture when I tried to save the Nariva swamp from rice farmers. And the rice farmers sued the government, the Attorney General, and sue. I had to go to court, and I went and I sat in the box and I was cross-examined by their lawyers to protect the public interest against persons who were demanding rights in the Nariva swamp, but not Kamla Prasad Bisesa, not Anand Ramlogan, where lives were involved, thousands were arrested, and millions were to be paid in compensation to who they say were criminals. And up to last week, people were still receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars in compensation. But they are the ones demanding to meet with me personally to talk about crime, because they are experts in crime fighting. That's what they are. But I'm saying to you all tonight, they subscribe to the principle of Satan correcting sin. Right? You know how many people in their bailiwick have problems with the police for crime and criminality? Let me just take you all, those of you who've been taking them seriously, let's just do a little walk down memory lane. One, they find him with so much money going into his account that they ask him, how you explain that? Police investigation, I'm an only child and my mother gives me money for my birthday. That is one. The other one, Justice James Abood gave a 3-hour judgment about mishandling of public monies in a ministry. His name was called 13 times in that judgment, and he was asked to put in your defense. You have a case to answer. Another one, his colleague, a minister who lives abroad, came home to assist the police with a human trafficking matter and named his colleague as being involved and knowing about human trafficking. He got promoted from trafficker to the whole blinking market. Another one, he is on $1 million bail for facilitating the defrauding of the Treasury. And he is leader of opposition business in our House of Parliament. Another one, he was Mr. Live Sport, who spent all his time making slanderous videos about me and my wife and everybody else. And you know what you always be asking me? Why you don't take on this man? Why you don't carry him to court? You know what I tell you all? I want him right there doing just that. Because I know one of these days, you will have to ask yourself if that is what you want in your parliament as a minister of government. Or I'll tell you further, as he publishes those slanderous videos, I'm unmoved. I have 6 dogs. I could handle a shovel. I have no problem with the excrement. But you have to bear in mind that that is one of the mouthpieces. $400 million of criminality in live sport. But he up front, making video on my wife and on me. And he is the mouthpiece of the official opposition in this country. And all I'll ask people of Trinidad and Tobago, have you all gone stark raving mad? Eh? Have you all gone stark raving mad? But as far as they're concerned, that is not crime. $400 million and many people killed in a government program. So, you know, state of emergency. The other one, on the same platform, as if they were government last Monday, as if the election were called and they were the government, one was going to give you state of emergency. The other one, Mr. G-String, he's going to give you terrorism fight. Because as far as he's concerned, just declare anybody who have a gun or you meet with a gun is a terrorist and just wipe them off the face of the earth. Ladies and gentlemen, the laws in Trinidad and Tobago do not permit that. I and my ministers, before we could have embarked on the job of minister or prime minister, we had to swear an oath under the Constitution. And that oath is that you will observe the law and the Constitution and to do right to all manner of men. There's no exemption. So even as we are fighting crime and criminality, we have to do it within the confines of the law. And those who did it outside the confines of the law actually experimented with that. And that is why today we still have a number of cases that the government is guaranteed to lose, to pay hundreds of millions of dollars because this same group of people did not follow their oath of office. And they're now advising us to do the same thing. But we are saying it is possible to govern within the law, fight crime and criminality, and by God we will eventually overcome the criminals in Trinidad and Tobago. And there is no shortcut. There is no shortcut. Let me just draw your attention to how they are dangerous. In this matter of arbitrary use to be your crime fighting tool, I told you 8,178 persons were picked up in their use of a state of emergency in 2011. 7,044 were charged. However, there were several lawsuits filed after people who were charged were ordered released by the courts. You know why? Because there was no evidence that could stand up or was presented to the court. And then, of course, it goes on to say, in one instance, in October 2019, a High Court judge awarded $279,000 in compensation to 3 men from Kumana village, Toko, who were arrested and detained during the state of emergency. Another one from Vistabella got $250,000. But those are just examples. Listen very carefully to this. And I want you to juxtapose it against what G-String told you all last week, on Monday. In awarding the compensation to Ken Gresham, Justice Kangaloo said And I'm quoting here what the judge said. Quote, a message had to be sent to police officers that in arresting people, they must be vigilant and not merely engage in a rubber stamping process. Unquote. In short, what the judge has said here is that willy-nilly vicious political actions by politicians will not stand up in the court, and the court will have none of it. So if you have nothing to add to what the government is doing, and you have your own crime talks, and you come up with state of emergency and fighting terrorism without observing the laws of Trinidad and Tobago, Justice Kangaloo has already put on notice how that will end. But I always told you all, they're speaking loud and saying nothing. He speaks frequently and says nothing. They have nothing useful to add. Because if you had anything useful to add, when you had your own crime talks, you could have come up and say, well, look, this is what, here are the list of things they come up with. State of emergency, terrorism fight, and the big one, armed citizens. And let me quote the leader of the gang. Giving citizens the right to access legal arms to defend themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, in Trinidad and Tobago, citizens already have the legal right to apply for, to be screened, and some, not all, receive firearms. But we do not subscribe to the principle that if there's money to be made in FUL, that we give out as much FUL as possible. Enrich yourself by giving everybody a gun. That same Mr. G-String there, I asked him one day, talking to him as head of the National Security Council, I said to him, do you think it is proper for a man who is on a rape charge to have a firearm? He hesitated because he knew exactly what I was saying. And then he answered. He said, no, no, Prime Minister, no, no, no. And I left it there. Because I happened to have known that he had granted a firearm to a person who was on a rape charge and a number of other criminal charges. When he embarked upon his political mission and misadventure, you know what he was telling the media? And what he says with his lying mouth? That I told him to go and take away Duke firearm. The man is a liar. And he knows exactly what I was saying, And all I ask him, is it proper to have done that? Or for that, because only certain persons, you have to qualify to be allowed a personal firearm. But ladies and gentlemen, if that is their solution, what are we going to become? A society in which if you could shoot faster than me or you have more bullets than me, you will live and I will die? But let me bring you to a point that Minister Hines touched on. This country is awash with ammunition and arms to go with it. And I distinctly recall, I was shocked. I was in Tobago one weekend and I saw this big advertisement in the newspaper for assault weapons. And I immediately called the minister to ask, are we giving people assault weapons as their personal protection units? The minister said no, because as far as I'm concerned, that is not government policy. But the policy had been so changed surreptitiously that dealers were getting permission to import into this violent society as many guns as they can, and millions of rounds of ammunition were being made available. And I have absolutely no doubt that a significant amount of the ammunition that were approved to come into this country through legal means are ending up in the hands of the criminals of Trinidad and Tobago. I'll give you one example. A man was killed in St. James a few months ago at close range. and they fired 63 bullets at him. You know why a criminal will do that? Because bullets are easy to get. And you see them every day, well armed. But the one thing that is not in short supply is bullets. And when you ask yourself, what exactly was the Commissioner of Police doing? Granting one dealer permits to bring in 20 million rounds of ammunition. Is this Beirut? Is this Gaza? Is this Yemen? And then telling the government that we are only concerned about licensed firearms. Let me tell you something else too. There was something that was not happening in this country. Police was supposed to go out on a regular basis to check arms and ammunition dealers so they can account for every gun and every bullet that comes into this country. The police was not doing that. And as a result of that, I have to come to the conclusion that there was significant leakage because there was money to be made. No unlicensed illegal gun holder could walk into any dealer and buy ammunition because it has to be recorded to get it. But on the black market, it was available in large amount. But the most frightening thing about it, as we've been examining this problem and this problem area, we go to the customs to verify which of those permits was used to bring in ammunition so we could know how much of the 20 or the 10 or the 5 million came in and where it is now and how it is being sold. You know what the answer is? People of Trinidad and Tobago, do you know what the answer to that examination is? We don't know. We don't know. There was one dealer, when they went out recently to examine the dealer, he had no books, as the law requires, eh? And when I asked, where are your books? He said there was a theft and his books were stolen. That is what was going on in this country. There were people who were given permission to become arms dealers even without applying. Even without applying, they were given permission to be arms and ammunition dealer in this country. So this little island is awash with ammunition in particular, which came in here through the wiles of people who saw the profit potential of ammunition and the fuel dealings in this country. And when talking about doing things without government permission, I was head of the National Security Council, as I still am, and I hear Louis Leeson complaining about the closing down of Blanchard's police station. And I asked the minister, what? Who did that? Turned out, without reference to the minister or the National Security Council, the Commissioner of Police closed down Blanchard's police station. And while he said open it back and dealing with that, we discover he closed down Mariah police station too. And he closed down one in Central too. So this Commissioner of Police, he was bigger than the Prime Minister and the Minister, that he could close down police station without reference to the government. Yeah? Right here in Barataria in the East-West Corridor, and in St. Clair Police Station, a brand new police station that we have built on Serpentine Road. I am waiting to see the police station brought into use as a police station. When months pass, and I am not seeing it, I ask, what is happening with St. Clair Police Station? Turned out St. Clair Police Station was made into the business of firearm units. The business of FUL handling. The brand new police station. I went down there and opened it. They had corralled the firearm business to the point where after the station was opened as a police station, a full-fledged police station, there was a room that wasn't opened, and eventually they opened the room. You know what was inside that room? You know what's in that room? 10,000 applications for firearm users license. 10,000. And managed that if you don't pay certain persons to get on the list, you don't come out from inside that 10,000. I have been told personally by persons about how they obtained the firearms unit, so I know the price. Assault weapons range from $40,000 to $100,000 a piece. Handguns were $40,000. You understand what I'm telling you? And every examination that we did of the firearms unit became even more and more frightening. But I can't tell the parliament what the reports say, because I have been injuncted by a judge that report can't go to the parliament. But the report of the Police Service Commission is there for you. You heard it tonight from Minister Hines. The Police Service Commission engaged former appeal court Judge Stanley John to go to the firearms department in the police service of Trinidad and Tobago and conduct an examination and report back to the Police Service Commission. Justice John did just that. And when he wrote his report, he sent a copy to the commission saying that you may want the head of the National Security Council to know this. Because what I have found is what Minister Hines told you tonight. Justice John found in the police service a thriving, well-oiled criminal enterprise under the nose. Who want the nose under a G-string? And instead of feeling ashamed for what the report said about your stewardship, they're on the road campaigning for your vote to become Prime Minister or Prime Minister's aide. And you see the lack. President Robinson had mentioned to us, he said streams flow into rivers and rivers flow into seas. Well, the waves are breaking on the other side. Because you see, what would have brought back together Gary Griffith and Kamala Prasad Bisesa? And let me just point out something to you all. There's a lawsuit in this country against a minister of government for attempting to pervert the cause of justice. Gary Griffith is the state witness in that matter. Keep your eyes open to how that is going to end. Right? Because he has already declared himself politically wedded at the hip with the same person who fired him over that very matter. Understand? These are the people who are coming to tell about alternatives. But we of the PNM, we can point to you our seriousness about dealing with crime. We knew that we had a threat coming from overseas to us. So we didn't want to cancel OPVs and pocket the money and have people thief it. We go in a difficult period in our existence where there was no money available, but we found money to have 2 first-class vessels built, purpose-built, and brought to Tobago, CG-41 and CG-42. Last month or thereabouts, I took a trip from Tetron to Tobago. Took me all evening, all night into the next morning. It was a beautiful experience to see the equipment we have outside there and to see our officers perform in the sea out there. We have 2 of those vessels because the PNM's position is different. You hear Minister Hines telling you all about the contract that we have just signed with Damen to maintain the vessel that we had to pay for, all 12 of them. What he has not told you was that around the contract that existed for those vessels to be purchased in the first place was a $220 million finder's fee, they call it. And when a foreign nation saw this largesse coming to some people, halfway through the payment, the foreign European country intervened and stopped it and held on to $100 million of the money. I could tell you tonight here in Sawa, there's $100 million of our money which was on its way to other people that is in the hands of a foreign government. waiting to see how that money should end up. But it's our money. But it's our people pay it out. When they didn't pay for the vessels, they paid that money. And as the government changed in 2015, we end up having to pay for all the vessels. Understand? These are the people who are coming to tell you they want to help you with crime. They have the answers to crime and criminality. I am telling you, when the UNC meets in caucus, that is the crime talks of the country. Because most of them have to look over their shoulder anytime they see a blue light or they hear a siren. And if a policeman in uniform come by the gate, they start to produce soft matter. Ladies and gentlemen, don't take it for granted that the PNM is the government of Trinidad and Tobago. We had to win that from you. We had to stop SIS from getting another $1 billion. The day after election, SIS principal left this country and never come back. And left a $1 billion hole in Beetham. Jack Warner was in the cabinet as acting prime minister. He can't go on a plane to Tobago. Banned. And it wasn't accidental, you know. From the very first day Jack Warner was made a minister of government in this country, it was the same day I was appointed opposition leader. And I told this country, this is unacceptable. He's going to embarrass this country. He's going to shame this country. So say, so done. And after all that has been said and done, they have come together again. Because they always have to come together. Because the only issue they're concerned about is bad-mouthing the PNM. But I will say to you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, if the PNM was not existing, it would have had to be invented so that this population in Trinidad and Tobago could have enjoyed the life that you have enjoyed and the security is given now. All of them as alternatives are a waste of time. Most of them have questions to answer. None of them have any shame about their own conduct. And I want you to forget that. You think anybody in the PNM could be on $1 million bail and even come and sit down in Balize House for us to be in Parliament? Huh? You think anybody in the PNM could have been responsible for live sport and find themselves free in the court because Prime Minister me would have ignored the advice and go and make the report public without letting him see it, knowing that that will cause him to win the case in the court? And on the very day he won the case, you call a meeting in Diego Martin the same night and offer to make him a senator, and he has been in the parliament disgracing this country from top to bottom ever since. And you want to come and tell me I must sit down and talk crime with you? I am not doing that. The government will talk to you. And let me tell you all finally, one position. The opposition leader has no principles. Principle don't mean nothing to her. And those of you who are offended by that, you could be offended because you don't have the experience I have. When you could bring your cabinet colleague, sit down and work out, and use your cabinet colleague to come to the parliament with purported evidence to show that the opposition leader is guilty of rape, he and his father, then you don't deserve to sit down with me nowhere in this country. None. And when you don't respect the presence of the body of Nelson Mandela as a historical location in your own history, what do you want to talk to me about? I went to South Africa alongside the opposition leader, the Prime Minister, to Nelson Mandela's funeral. We flew to Pretoria on the same plane, and we were going to view the body. We were in the same car, going to view the body. It was a very interesting experience for me because for a couple hours, I was, for official purposes, the husband of the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. I was that. You see, all the people who came from all the countries were in one room. We all were in the same room. I was there as opposition leader. But the kings and queens and presidents and so on were in that same room. And as we were moving out into coaches to go to see the body, the first people who were called were kings. And they came in and they made the announcement, all kings, this is your coach. And then after, the next were presidents. And my prime minister turned to me and said, listen, you have to come with me, otherwise you mightn't get on a coach for a long time. So when they call prime minister, you will accompany me onto the prime minister's coach. So I complied. And I escorted the lady onto the coach, and I sat as husband of the prime minister. And I got to see Nelson Mandela's body long before I would have if I had waited for the call of opposition leader. So on the way to that momentous development, she raised a matter with me. She said that we have a problem in the country where judges and parliamentarians' pensions are unacceptable. And we have many complaints from judges who serve the country well, and they are suffering because their pensions have been made outdated by the economic changes. She said, I want to bring a bill to the parliament to change those circumstances for the judges and for members of parliament. Will you support it? I said yes. When we get back home, bring the bill and the opposition will support the bill. The then Prime Minister did in fact bring the bill to the Parliament. But as you know, anytime you come to Parliament with anything to give office holders, especially senior office holders, any improvement, a pay increase, a pension, this, there will be some grumbling about it from people who believe that we should really pay them to be in those offices rather than be paid, and also that we're already getting enough and so on. But the principle of it is, it was something that needed to be done. And there was support for the opposition. When the matter came up in the Parliament, in the face of the public grumbling, the opposition saw the government, who brought the bill, remove its support for the bill, ascribe the bill to the political leader of the PNM, who was opposition leader, and then the bill failed. Because the government that brought the bill chose not to support it. As a matter of fact, in her own words, in ascribing that attempt to improve the circumstances of these office holders, she accused me of being greedy and wanting something out of it. Ladies and gentlemen, I said to her then, you have sacrificed your principle to try and save yourself from political problems, and to treat politics as the be-all and end-all. But I know I will win the next election, and exactly what has not passed in this Parliament, the PNM will pass it into law. And the record will show that after the failure, as I've just described, to get that bill passed, to give judges a better pension, and to give members of Parliament a better pension, that when we came into office, notwithstanding the grumbling of some people, we passed it into law, and it is now in force in Trinidad and Tobago. Because we are never in the PNM afraid of the consequences of doing the right thing. And that is why the PNM is held to a higher standard, because we have a reputation of doing the right thing for the right reason. Ladies and gentlemen, it has strengthened us. And that approach to governance will continue to strengthen this country. We cannot be talking about strengthening this country and dealing with difficulties if we are unprincipled. And of course, as Prime Minister Robinson would have said, if we ignore the role of moral and spiritual values. I want to ask the opposition leader, when did Jack Warner remove himself from the condemnation of his FIFA infractions? When? You tell him go from the cabinet when water was more than flour and come back when you clear your name. Has he cleared his name? When did Gary Griffith become your darling to come and tell me that unless I agree that Gary should be in talks, I didn't know he was in to be out? Big news in Trinidad and Tobago. He has withdrawn, so that withdraw from where he was never. And that is the kind of foolishness that is going on in this country. But tonight, I want to end on this note. And the note is, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, all citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, yes, we have a crime problem. All of us, especially those whose job it is to confront the criminal element and criminal actions of all citizens. Those in the security services. You are not the teachers and not the police and the priests. You, the security service personnel, it is your job and it is the government's job to make sure that you are well-resourced, you are well-behaved, and that you follow policies that follow the laws of Trinidad and Tobago. There's no alternative to that. And that is exactly what we are doing. And of course, as we go forward in that way, all our citizens must understand that there's no magic to rolling back the outcome, what took decades to build. Those young men in the early 20s who you see walking around, proud that they have a gun. They weren't born at age 27. They were not born at age 18. They were born at one day, and they came up in families. One of the biggest problems in this country today is the breakdown and the failure of black African families in Trinidad and Tobago, where black young men are believing that they have no future, and they were brought up to believe that violence is a way of life. And let me tell you something. Special problems require special responses. And I will tell you, as I continue to examine my responsibility of Prime Minister, I have now come to the conclusion that we need special intervention in some of those communities that are nurseries for criminal conduct. And insofar as there are officials who can broadcast as loudly as they can that the police have no leadership and the police commissioner is no good and every policeman is a waste of time, giving confidence to the criminals that they could embark on their criminality with impunity. I want to tell them tonight, in those communities that you will see named in the very near future, I will instruct the Minister of Finance to identify immediately $100 million to go inside those communities and do what is not being done, because criminals in there have taken control of those streets and those houses and are making it difficult for government services to go in there and give some people an opportunity for a decent life. There are communities here in the East-West Corridor and elsewhere where a handful of criminals, like Mr. Hines told you, we're going to put up lights in our community, and some miscreant telling them he don't want no lights there. Well, there will be light, because the money that we'll make available, as I'm describing here, will be made available to the Defense Force leadership to retain and to hire reserve officers or retired officers and recruits to go into those communities and ensure that what has to be built is built, where security has to be on the street is there, and where people can rely on them and not on the local don who believes that they're somehow bigger than the government and the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I have faced this before. I have faced this before. I was in the parliament when we had a budget, and the budget had in it a program of affirmative action to treat with young men in the urban areas who had begun to drift away into criminality. And that program was meant to stop that. You know how the UNC described that program? Discrimination. And my party, the PNM, on that occasion, shied away from doing that and go and tell the country that what is in the budget document is a misprint. And they accused me of racism. Well, the chickens have come home to roost. That was 15 years ago. So the boy who was born on that day is 15 years now, and who was 10 years old then is 25 years old. So when I do what I say I'm going to do now, I'm broke no obstruction from anybody on the other side. I will do what has to be done. Because no criminal in this country could take the position that the government must give difference to you because you have a gun or you have access to a gun. The state and the people of Trinidad and Tobago must stand predominant in this country. Ladies and gentlemen, we have never been afraid of our responsibility. Otherwise, free secondary education would never have come to this country. The PNM was never afraid of our responsibility. Otherwise, free medical attention would never have come to this country. We were never afraid to accept independence where others were afraid of it. And as we move now, as I announced today, a committee to start the conversation on examining our constitution. What I want to see come out of that is whether or not the arrangements that we put in place in 1962 when we were afraid of independence, whether in fact we want that in today or we want new management structure for the country that is also a priority as well as fighting crime. We all can't be crime fighters. Some are doctors, some are nurses, some are teachers, some are drivers, and we have crime fighters. So to come and say that all of us are not crime fighters and therefore everything is not crime fighting, there are other things to be done in the country. And as Prime Minister, I made sure that while we are fighting the criminals with our best effort, that every other area of governmental activity, in foreign affairs, in energy, in education, in housing, it was all on track. Because government is a whole of government exercise. And every minister has a role to play. And I will say tonight, every parent has a role to play. Every teacher has a role to play. And when you skive away from not going to class, you're helping the criminals. When you bring up your children without manners and behavior, you're helping the criminals. When you're stealing government money, you're helping the criminals. Let us all reflect on how the criminals managed to reach where they are today. And you may very well find that there's a role for you to play. And on that occasion, when you found out that all of us in the same boat, and thank God for the PNM captaincy, you will say, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and Trinidad and Tobago shall always prevail.
Trinidad and Tobago, there will be light, and the People's National Movement will ensure that there is light. Trinidad and Tobago, please remember that the alternative to the People's National Movement will always be chaos and confusion. But before I say farewell to you, as a matter of housekeeping from our General Secretary, and let me acknowledge him, the Honorable Foster Cummings. Trinidad and Tobago, I ask you to save two very important dates. The first is the 27th of January at 5 p.m., which marks the return to Balize House. And we extend an invitation to each and every one of you. And finally, of course, our General Secretary means business. We want to invite you to support the People's National Movement Red Fete on Monday the 5th of February at Government Campus. So save those dates. We hope to see you soon. Trinidad and Tobago, thank you for your time. You have heard from us, the platform of truth. The alternative to the People's National Movement, as I said before, will always be chaos and confusion. Join me in one united voice as we end tonight's meeting and sing our chant. Great is the PNM, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and we shall prevail. Thank you.
Somebody touch me, somebody touch my soul. Somebody pray to me, Jesus. The road is long, no matter what come, I know I'm gonna
preceding program was a paid political broadcast.